Welcome to the JPO Family Program. My name is Jerome. The JPO Family Program will be live on YouTube and Zoom every day at 9 p.m. until the 28th of April. Please subscribe to our JPO YouTube channel and follow us on the JPO Facebook page. How is everyone going? Again, please stay at home and stay clean all the time. Questions are always welcome in the Q&A box, and also we there will be a pop-up survey there. Please help us to do the questions, and your feedbacks are very much appreciated. And tonight we have a special guest all the way from the United States. He is a freelance trumpeter, music composer, and educator from the Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jacob Dalager. Mr. Jacob, hello.
Thank you. Good morning and good evening to you.
Good morning. I hope it's not too early to wake you up.
No, it's fine here. It's only 9 a.m.
All right. Um, yeah, how's the situation in the United States, in your area?
Uh, Regarding the coronavirus, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
if you watch the news, you probably have heard that it's pretty bad in the United States. We actually didn't handle it very well. Actually, Malaysia handled it much better. Singapore very well. Taiwan is, I mean, we have the most cases. We have the most number of deaths, and of course, we have a very large population, so that's somewhat understandable. But we have, considering how wealthy this country is and how many resources we have, it's very poorly handled. So it's bad. I don't know anyone personally who has gotten sick with COVID-19, and everyone I know is taking it very seriously. So I think we will flatten the curve and get through this eventually, but it's definitely going to take a while. So
Yeah, let's put the bad news aside. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Okay, here's a short profile of Mr. Jacob. He's a principal trumpet of the Washington Chamber Orchestra. Also a guest player with the National Philharmonic Post-Classical Ensemble and Symphony of the Potomac. Mr. Jacob is a founding member, principal trumpet, and arranger for the Parkway Brass. So in between 2009 until 2014, Mr. Jacob traveled to Asia and did perform with several orchestra in Singapore with the Singapore Symphony, National Taiwan Symphony, and also Malaysia Philharmonic Orchestra. And Mr. Jacob joined the JPO many years ago to he was in Sabah to work in the Juro Home and also participated in our concert as well. He also with us at the Tip of Borneo concert and also done fundraising recital for the Juro Home. Mr. Jacob, on behalf of the JPO, I really appreciate what you have done for all the students before and also to the outreach program. And yeah, I hope we can work on something else in the future. And
yes.
okay, can you elaborate the music pieces that you play at the beginning of the beginning video clip?
Yes, so that's a piece called Three Futures for Trumpet and Orchestra. It's a piece that I wrote last year. It's actually, so it's a trumpet concerto, and that's a piano reduction. So it's for full orchestra, and I played it. It was commissioned for, and I performed it with the Austin Symphony Orchestra. But I don't have a full recording of that, so you heard the piano version. It's a piece about, it's actually about climate change, which doesn't, is not the most pressing crisis we have now because of the pandemic, but of course it's a long-term crisis that we're facing at the same time. So it's called Three Futures, and there's three movements, and the first one is about the future we have if we don't address climate change. So it's a very dark first movement. The second movement is called Future Loss, which is the future we could have had if we were had taken action earlier on climate change and about a green utopia. And the third movement, which you just heard, is called Future Possible. And it is a call to action. It's very exciting. I think it's very fast. It's somewhere between, it's not maybe overly optimistic, but there's hope in there. And we're not for sure going to defeat climate change, but if we work hard and get our act together now, we can soon tackle that. So it's yeah, that last movement, it's very pentatonic, it's very modal, um, kind of minimalist. You hear the repetitive motives that come through. And you saw me play a couple different instruments. I played a piccolo trumpet in the middle and at the very end to play the really, really high stuff. So that's just a little bit. Again, it's called Three Futures. The whole thing's available on YouTube for trumpet orchestra. Three Futures.
Cool. Is this what you're trying to bring the message to the society? What I'm saying is, I grew up listen to the 80s pop music. You know, I'm a big MJ fans. MJ, what I mean, MJ is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, his
Yes.
music,
Yeah.
yeah, he deeply impacted me when I was really young, and the message he had in his music, I think, is what the world needed right now. Is that what you're doing right now? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, by using the
Sure. Yeah.
power of music.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think that's a good connection that you're making with Michael Jackson, because he has that song, Earth Song, and a lot of others too, like Black or White, that have good social messages. But specifically, Earth Song would relate directly to my piece. It's about saving the environment. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I've always been a politically aware and a political activist. And I don't. I struggle to. A lot of people are able to separate just music is just for entertainment or pleasure or art, and then politics are separate. I struggle to separate them. To me, like when I look at the problems of the world or the good things too, like that's what inspires me to make music, is life and how things are in the world. So when I write music or when I play, I tend to think about social and political and environmental issues. Those are what come to mind. That's what inspires my writing. So, and that's, yeah, exactly. That's the message when I spend. I want people to enjoy the music and feel, and feel moved, but also feel emotionally moved, not just internally, but also moved to action, to change their behavior and to take political action as well.
Cool. Thank you very much. And for all the attendees tonight, for most of the young one who willing to know more about to become a musician in your further study or experience or of study abroad, any questions are welcome to in the Q&A box. To I hope Mr. Jacob could help to answer all the question very well. Okay, and so here's the first question. You came to Asia back in 2009, between 2009 and 2014. Why did you choose to come to Asia as part of your musical journey in terms of cultural difference? Can you share to our audience?
Sure. So that I came to Southeast Asia 2 times. That's a little bit complicated. I'll just give you the short version. So in 2009 to 2010, I was part of a volunteer program called Young Adults in Global Mission, and I came to Sabah, and I lived in Tuaran, outside of KK, and I was a volunteer there working at Jira Home, and I taught English and music to the students at Jira Home. And that was a great experience. I loved working with and living with kids there. And then that was a 1 year long program, and I came back to the US and did my master's degree. And then I had another opportunity to come to Singapore, this time in 2012 to 2014. And that's when I played. That's why on my profile you saw me playing with National Philharmonic, National Taiwan Symphony, and stuff like that.
Cool.
That was when I was living in Singapore.
Thank you.
And then the cultural differences. Yeah, your other question. So that's how I came to Southeast Asia. Of course, there's big differences. But there's a lot of similarities too. I would say I'd felt more similarities than anything in terms of like interacting with people. People are the same everywhere. Everyone just wants. Everyone wants to be just be treated well. People want to be friendly. People want to share their culture with you, um, and share their ideas. I found Malaysians to be generally quite open-minded and accepting of me. Even though I didn't speak Malay or Chinese when I moved there, I did learn a little bit of Malay. Um, and
Yeah.
but yeah, and I mean the biggest differences honestly are somewhat superficial things like the food and the weather and like the fashion and stuff like that. But underneath all that, everyone loves music, everyone loves art, everyone loves food, everyone loves
Do you have a
spending time with
plan
friends.
for coming back to Sabah?
I don't have a specific plan, but as soon as I can find an opportunity, I'll come back. I'll come back the rest of my life. I love Sabah. It will always have a place in my heart. Obviously, I can't travel now anyway. No one can go anywhere with the travel ban. But yeah, I will jump at the next opportunity, the next excuse I can find to come back to Sabah in Southeast Asia.
Okay, thank you. Um, yeah, knowing that you're a principal trumpet player, a composer, as well as a teacher, can you tell us more about the career options as a musician other than just being a
Sure.
soloist or in a band? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like, yeah. So being a soloist is probably amazing. I think it's probably the hardest one to go to. I think most musicians end up doing a combination of things, just like you listed. I don't think there aren't many musicians that only do one thing. There's a few, but they're actually quite lucky. There's a handful of concert soloists in the world, but really only maybe a few dozen across all instruments. A few pianists, a few violinists that all they do is play solos. And then there's another tier of people that have full-time jobs in orchestras. But except for the really, really big orchestras, like Vienna Philharmonic and Chicago Symphony and stuff, most of those people are also teaching on this side because it's not quite really a full-time job. And in the summers, they usually don't have work. So there's lots of, which is, that sounds negative. It's not really a negative thing though, because I think it's good to be a teacher too. Almost all musicians teach in some capacity, and I think that helps you become a better musician too. So I teach, I perform as a soloist, I perform as a chamber musician, I perform in orchestras, and I play in pit orchestras for musicals. And I love the variety. I love the variety. I wouldn't take it any other way. Some people only want to do one thing. They just want to play an orchestra. That's fine. For me, I like having to wear different hats. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me learning. I always have to improve to keep up. Um, and also I teach not just trumpet, but I also teach college classes like music theory and music and ear training and some jazz classes, introduction to jazz and jazz history, American popular music. So I really enjoy pretty much all types of music and all aspects of participating in music, whether it's research, education, performance, or composition. The only thing I don't do is conduct. I don't know, just never got interested in conducting.
Why not?
No reason. I have nothing against it. I took a conducting class and it was fine. I just wasn't like particularly drawn to it. I'd rather play than conduct. I admire Yap Ling and all conductors. I think it's the talent that
Cool.
I never, I don't have.
All right. Uh, yeah, speaking of the band that you formed,
Mhm.
Parkway Brass, I
Yeah,
mean, what encourages you to form the band, and what direction are you guys heading to in the future? Do you have any
yeah,
goal to achieve?
sure. Yeah, the Parkway Brass is a brass quintet that I started 3 years. Well, I didn't start it. I joined it, and then I kind of ended up becoming the de facto leader because other people left, and then I brought in new players. Anyways, so Parkway Brass is my quintet, and we play a lot of my own arrangements. We do not just exclusively, but I do a lot of the writing and arranging for the group. So a few original compositions as well as arrangements of classical pieces. Um, and yeah, our goal, like actually, we were planning on recording this year, uh, releasing our first album. Everything is up in the air now. We haven't been able to rehearse, and our recording dates are canceled for now. But maybe later this year we'll get to it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But we play. I mean, my music style, as you heard at the beginning of at the video at the beginning, that's sort of my style. It's very energetic. It's modern, but it's not like atonal. It's not. So I think it's accessible. It's a little bit, I would say, popular. There's a lot of world music rhythms and a lot of like jazz harmonies built into my music. And so our quintet plays that sort of stuff. And we're hoping to release an album later this year. I also play in two other like actual like rock bands. One called Black Masala,
Cool.
like chicken masala, and a reggae band called Shamans of Sound. And you can find those bands on Spotify actually, or on Spotify and iTunes. And I can write those down: Black Masala and Shamans of Sound. And that's just for fun. I don't lead those bands. I maybe write some horn lines here or there, um, or write a song, but nothing too involved. I more play with those for fun. We tour around, play at clubs, rock venues, and festival dates in the summer. And yeah, so I just again, that's a wide variety that I like doing.
Thank you. And for the attendees, please feel free to put your question in the Q&A. All right. Okay. So for the next question, JPO has been doing various programs such as the outreach program and of course the MCO broadcast program. What do you think about the programs that we had done? Do you have any suggestion or advice?
I mean, I think it's just astounding. I'm really inspired by what JPO has done, and Yapling and everyone who is
Hello?
running. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'll start over. I think I'm just inspired by the JPO and the outreach program. I think it's wonderful. Um I I don't know how you could do it better. You're growing. When that last time I was in Sabah, you just had the one outreach program to Jerome, and I went and saw that, and I was absolutely awestruck by how much the kids had learned in a few short years. They could all play their instruments really well, and they were enthusiastic about it, and like, and yeah. So and then it's only grown since there. You have four outpostings, outreach programs, and I heard that you expanded from strings into winds and brass. So I think that's great. I don't know what advice I could possibly give, is except for just keep doing it, keep doing more. I love that you're doing these videos every night to keep people excited about music, thinking about it, hopefully inspiring them to keep playing their instruments, even though they don't get to go to rehearsal and play with their friends right now. I think it's just wonderful, and I think I'm the one that's taking advice from you. I think I'm the one that's um, learning here. I don't know what else I could suggest. So just keep doing what you're doing and keep growing as much as you can.
Thank you very much. Well, okay, let's go into the Q&A session.
Okay.
I think my line is not getting stable. I hope you guys not losing me.
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, first, what do you think about breathing exercises?
Breathing exercises. I think so. Must be from a question from a brass player, because only
Yeah.
brass players talk about breathing exercises. I think um, I think they can play a role for students who are not good at breathing. But I think you can get, at least for trumpet players, maybe for low brass, I think it's more important, where you really have to work on getting really big breaths all the time, for like a tuba player especially. For trumpet players, I think in general trumpet players tend to overblow, because it's such a small mouthpiece, right? We only have like that little tiny hole to put air through. It's my trumpet. um, so I actually don't do breathing exercises with my kids. I usually try to get them to breathe less, because they tend to go right, and then it's like overpowering. So I'm not opposed to them, but I only use them as needed, when a student is like really not breathing enough. Um, like a little student or someone, or when I teach, sometimes I teach trombone or something, and we'll do some like breathing gym type things, taking deep breaths, timing your breath. But I don't put a huge emphasis on it personally.
Okay. How to make glissando?
Glissando. Okay, another brass player question. I think So there's a, I think I understand the question. So on the actual brass instrument, you can't really do a real glissando, right? Because there's partials. Like all those notes are fixed, right? So to do a glissando, you have to do like half valves. You have to push your valves half down, not all the way down, but halfway down. I don't know if that was the question. So that if it's written in the music, that's what you have to do glissando. If you're asking about technical, how do you improve your glissando? You have to do work on the mouthpiece alone. And there's a book I would recommend called The Buzzing Book to work on your mouthpiece glissando. And that will help kind of connect your range throughout the instrument. It's just called The Buzzing Book. It's a pretty straightforward name by Jim Thompson. And I can, if you stick around, I can type that out for you or something. The Buzzing Book.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
The Buzzing Book by Jim Thompson. Yeah.
Buzzing Book by Jim Tom. All right.
Yep, James Thompson.
Well, I saw we're getting a lot of questions about the skill, playing skill technique.
The trumpet, yeah.
Well, I hope all the attendees, you're not only asking about the playing skill, instead you may ask Mr. Jacob about, study abroad in the United States. Yeah, all the questions about education.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer trumpet like brass questions, but maybe we'll start with general questions, and then the brass players can stay around and listen to my brass answers afterwards. If there's general questions first, maybe we can start with those.
I don't find any general questions, but anyway, we go ahead and yeah. So what is the proper
here's one. I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, someone asked about recommend pursuing a music master's degree at a conservatory or university.
Oh, okay. Do you want to answer that?
Zoom question. Yeah. So, would you recommend pursuing a master's degree at a conservatory or a university? Was the question. Of course, it's always that's a personal question. So it depends what you want to do. The master's degree is basically it's usually a 2-year degree that you get after your bachelor's degree. For those of you who don't know, so that bachelor's is a 4-year degree, and then 2 more years for your master's. The master's degree is typically not very heavy on the academics. So it's basically 2 years to really practice a lot, get some good lessons, and learn a lot of repertoire, a lot of music, a lot of solo literature, a lot of orchestra repertoire, or whatever ensemble you're in. So the master's is great if you're looking to like take auditions, or go and you want to be a soloist or something like that, and you're not quite ready to like win an audition yet, or to become a soloist or start a chamber group. Master's is great. If you want to go into teaching or something, that doesn't really, you don't need a master's. If you want to go into academia, if you want to teach at the college or university level, you need a doctorate, which is after the master's. So yes, you need a master's, and ultimately your goal is to get a doctorate. So my answer is like, it depends what you want to do. But if you want to be a music performance, you want to perform music for a living, and you're not at a professional level yet when you graduate from your bachelor's degree, then yeah, you should go to your master's.
Cool. And no. Yeah, we're going back to the techniques, the playing skill questions. Okay, what is a proper embouchure for playing trumpet? Does mouthpiece concern?
Yeah, proper embouchure. So you want to have your lips should be more vertically. They should be centered on the mouthpiece, more or less. You don't want to have it too low and one lip is kind of popping out. Some people put the mouthpiece too low and the top lip kind of slides out a little bit. So all the pink part of your lips should all be in the mouthpiece. I like to keep the corners here and here, the edges of your mouth firm, but then quite loose in the middle. So like this is going to be really personal. So the corners are firm, but it's like a guitar string. Okay, so think about, or any string instrument, but guitar is easy to visualize for everybody. You have a peg on one end, right? I have a guitar right here. right? There's a peg on one end, a peg down, and another peg down here. That's where it's pinned down, right? But the middle is loose. It has to be free to vibrate. There's no tension anywhere here, right? Except for, if I play a fret, it's in between. There's no tension between the finger and the peg. So the same thing here. It has to be really loose here. The biggest embouchure problem people have is that they're much, much, much too tight. It takes way less effort than we think. And the other big thing I try to get my students to do is to relax both lips, especially the lower lip, to come forward. Don't deliberately pucker, don't go, but allow the lips to pucker as you release air. So you're allowing both lips to be blown forward. Don't resist the air. Work with the air as they get blown forward. Someone raised their hand.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna ask some general question about
Okay.
the time when you were in Jero home. How do you like it? How do you find the students different than the student back in United States?
Sure. I think I really liked spending time in Jira home. I love all of my students, all the kids. I like the staff that I worked with. I think the biggest, I don't know what the biggest difference is. Well, I mean, I taught English, so that's part of it. That's a big difference. But I think the students were eager to learn, that they wanted to have fun. I'm not a huge difference. I mean, everyone wanted to learn music. My music students here too. I think in a way, my students at Jira Home were better because they maybe appreciated the opportunity that music gave them better. Whereas sometimes I have very privileged students here that don't really care. They don't really practice because they don't know. They don't know because they come from a wealthy family and they don't really need to try at anything because everything is given to them. So I don't mean to bad talk them or say anything like that, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
they worked hard. They worked hard at it, and I appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah. We're definitely looking forward to see you anytime soon in the future.
Yeah.
And okay, here's a question. For advanced trumpeter, is it crucial to have a selection of mouthpieces? And is it the more the better? What's your opinion on that?
Mouthpieces is just find something that you're comfortable with and sounds good. You don't need a lot of mouthpieces. Most trumpet players do end up with a lot of mouthpieces. I have a lot of mouthpieces, but it's not because, but I only use a few of them. It's because I've tried a bunch and then they didn't work, or they worked for a while and then I outgrew them. So I think you do want more than one mouthpiece for different situations. Like this is my normal mouthpiece. I use it for orchestra playing in most solo work. But when I play jazz, I play something a little bit smaller because I don't really need such a big sound. And I want to be able to play for longer, like a longer solo without getting tired. And then for like something like a big band or a musical pit orchestra, I will play a very shallow mouthpiece so that I can really get that bright, sizzly sound in a high register. And then, of course, you need different mouthpieces for different instruments. Like I have a cornet and I have a flugelhorn and I have a piccolo trumpet, and those all have different mouthpieces that fit those instruments. So I don't go crazy. Don't get mouthpieces just to get them, but you need to do a little bit of experimentation and see what fits you and fits you appropriately. For reference, most professional trumpet players are playing between 1.5 and a 1C. Most professional trumpet players aren't playing 7Cs. So you start out at around a 7C mouthpiece, and then you get bigger. There's maybe a few professionals playing around a 3C, but most people are a little bit larger at some point just because you get bigger and stronger. Not because you have to, but that's just kind of how it happens.
Cool. So yeah, this is a good one. What made you decided to come so far and teach at Jero Home?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. It seems like so I went through this program called Young Adults in Global Mission, and they're the ones that made a connection with Jira Home. and I applied for the program. And I didn't when I applied, I didn't know where I was going to go. I actually thought I was going to go to Argentina because I speak Spanish. But they sent me to Malaysia and told me I was going to Jerome, and I said okay. And so that was out of my control. But I mean, I'm glad it happened. I was willing to do it. You know, they told me ahead of time. I knew what was going to happen, but and I agreed to it. But I had nothing to do with establishing that connection. But so thanks to that program, to Young Adults of World Mission and Wilfred for making that connection through STS.
Do you get a chance to travel a bit in Sabah? Do you go to the forest or something?
Yeah, I went up to Sandakan
Uh,
and I went to like the like I did like a wildlife adventure, and I went to the orangutan sanctuary, and I also, yeah, I did quite a bit of traveling. Of course, I spent time in KK. Where else did we go? I went to Tawau briefly and Kota Maruru, and I never got
oh,
to like the south side of Sabah, where like what's that? Where the
Semporna.
really famous Semporna, yeah, where the famous scuba island. I never went there. And
Yeah.
then and then also west. I got west near Brunei. What's that town near Brunei? Look,
I
I don't
I
know.
don't know. All right.
Anyways,
Uh, yeah. So going back to the playing skill questions. So you're
mhm.
now doing a composition. Is there anywhere that we can buy or find your score, your music?
um, I have intentions of putting it up online for sale, but currently I don't. I haven't done that yet. I will be doing that as soon as the semester is over. But if you're interested, just contact me afterwards. I can give you my email address. I'll send you the score. You can take a look at some of my stuff. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but it will be up on my website is jacobdalager.com. It'll be up there probably within a month, jacobdalager.com. And also I'll put it on sheetmusicplus.com for sale as well. Sheet Music Plus.
Cool. And here's a question from our JPO president, Miss Jessica Lee. What led you to dedicate 1 year to join the NGO which you were that led you to Zero Home?
Um, yeah, so I did it as soon as I graduated from college. I finished my bachelor's degree in 2009. And I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I was so involved with activities at school, I hadn't really planned ahead very much. And then, if you recall, there was a global financial crisis at the end of 2008. So the idea of getting a job was probably far-fetched when I graduated. Plus, I didn't really feel like working yet. I wasn't even sure, honestly, if I wanted to keep doing music at that point. I had done so much music in undergrad that I was a little bit burned out. Um, and I love traveling. I love traveling. I love living abroad. I lived abroad when I was a child with my parents. I lived in Colombia and India. My parents did some traveling or like volunteer work and working abroad. So I kind of had the travel bug. I hadn't traveled very much throughout all of college, so I wanted to get abroad. I like learning languages. So yeah, I was looking for an opportunity to travel and learn about a new culture, and I figured, yeah, why not volunteer? It seems like a good um, way to give back. I like volunteering. I like working with people, and yeah, that's why. So yeah, and then it was through Young Adults of Global Mission, which is through the Lutheran Church, the ELCA in the United States, um, and that's the church that I grew up in. So I kind of knew about it through there. Yeah, YAGM, 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 Young Adults in
Oh,
Global Mission was the name of the
okay.
organization.
So would you advise our young musicians to explore such opportunities to travel around and experience the world as you did?
I, I would recommend it for people just in general. I don't think it's a specifically good experience for musicians necessarily, because you might not end up in a place that has any musical opportunities, in which case you just have to practice on your own for a year, and like maybe you won't have a live. I don't know. It might not be good musically necessarily, but I think it's a really good experience for everybody to live abroad and experience a new culture and or learn a new language. So I think it's good for humans just to travel and live in different cultures. I don't think it's necessarily a good to be a volunteer to play in a different country, to volunteer because in a different country. However, travel, just generally moving abroad, to, like say you want to come to the United States to do your master's degree, that would be, yeah, then that would definitely be both. That would be right. That would be learning music. You would definitely have good opportunities and living in the culture. Or you want to, there's other opportunities like academic orchestras where it's sort of like a training orchestra. They have one in Japan. They have some of those like in Europe. So those are academic orchestras. Or you can, go to like a European conservatory, a Hochschule in Germany or something, and do that. So yeah, I think you should definitely look for opportunities to travel and live abroad. I just don't know if volunteering is the way to get the music. I don't think volunteering is the way to get musical experience.
Okay, so what makes you decided to be a musician? Like you're saying you didn't know what what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I wasn't always like, so I grew up in a musical family. So my mom
Um,
is an oboist. She has her master's in oboe performance, and she teaches music as her main thing. She mainly teaches oboe and piano at home, private lessons. So I always grew up with music. When before I went to college, I wasn't sure if I was going to do music. I was looking at politics or like Latin American studies or Spanish or something. And I don't know what changed my mind. I think I just like decided, I don't know. I just decided that I really loved playing and that um, it was, music is very challenging and I also really like a challenge. So I think I ultimately decided because like this would be a really I wanted something that would be like a lifelong journey and not just a 4-year degree and then a job. I wanted something that I was going to be challenged by for my whole life, and music was the thing. I mean, there's other things that do that too, but as a thing I was most advanced on and enjoyed a lot. And then yeah, after my master's, I said I was just burned out. I guess I didn't think I wasn't going to do music, but I didn't know what I was going to do with music. I didn't know if I was going to do my master's or if I was just going to try to go freelance, or if I was going to go into composition instead of performance. I just hadn't really figured out what direction within music I wanted to do yet. And I hadn't applied to graduate school or anything. So I just figured, and there was no job. So there was no prospects of freelancing. So I was like, well, but I did want to
yeah,
travel. So it sounded like a good idea.
all right. Going back to the playing skill questions.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
how to practice lip slur in trumpet?
Yeah. Okay. Lip slurs. So there's actually some people that don't think lip slurs might be. I think they're important, but I think they're overemphasized a little bit. I don't think you need to practice lip slurs for like 20 minutes a day. Like a lot of people like put a lot of emphasis on lip slurs, and I think the basic approach you need to do lip slurs is stop. We need to stop calling them lip slurs. Don't do any. Your lips should not be involved. The lips in all of brass playing should be passive, not active. So yeah, you're slurring and you're not using your valves, so that's why we call them lip slurs. But the air is what's really changing the pitches. So if I want to go like up on a lip slur, I will make the air whistle faster. So like, if you can whistle, it's actually really helpful. If you can whistle, and pay attention to what your air and your tongue does. Your tongue goes, your tongue arches a little bit while you whistle, and that's the same sort of thing. So we're gonna take a bigger breath than we need to whistle, but then you just kind of arch your tongue up, and as you ascend, you're gonna get more back pressure from the trumpet, and you don't want to overblow that back pressure, but you need to meet it head on. So the back pressure is coming from the trumpet as you ascend, and you just want to meet it so it stays balanced all the time. You don't want to overblow the trumpet, but you want to stay as the back pressure and the higher notes comes in. You need to support so that you're meeting that back pressure. So hold whole time I'm just trying to keep my embouchure relaxed and passive so that it can vibrate freely. But
Okay,
yeah,
good.
again, the buzzing book would be good for that. And there's other, the violin book is really good from the Chinese Conservatory, the violin lip flexibilities book. And maybe the Scott Belk book is pretty fun, the modern flexibilities book. Anyone can feel free to email me or call me with specific trumpet questions too. I will like share my email address after this. If anyone wants.
Well, your email address is D. No,
J.
what is that? Can you say that
Dalager at
again?
gmail.com. J.
Oh,
Dalager.
yeah, jdalager@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a trumpet player. I have difficulty to get high note. Can you please give some suggestion or tips for me to practice?
Yeah. So that's everybody's challenge with trumpet playing is the high notes. I don't, it's hard to tell you exactly what to do without hearing you play, and I don't know what's holding you back from the high notes. But similar to what I said, you need to make sure your tongue is arching up, like I just said with the whistling for the high notes. Most people, of course, I don't know you or haven't seen your playing, but most people overblow. Actually, they blow too hard, so it's possible you're working too hard. You have to kind of figure out how to finesse the trumpet into playing high notes rather than forcing it. It doesn't take muscle, it takes balance. So I would slow down and play really, really quietly and play everything just super quiet, and try to relax and stay loose and focused as you ascend to the high register. So maybe something like breath attack. So it's something just staying really, really, really quiet and ascending, stuff like that can be really helpful. I also really like pedal tones and lip bends for working on high range. Pedal tones and lip bends.
How to have a tonguing clearly? He
A
means
clear articulation. Yeah. Clear articulation. I would recommend exploring what's called anchor tonguing or dorsal tonguing. Anchor tonguing, where that rather than using the tip of the tongue to strike, you're actually kind of keeping the tip of the tongue down a little bit. This is great, and then kind of like going up with the middle of the tongue. You're kind of striking the roof of the mouth with not the tip of the tongue, but just behind the tip of the tongue. So instead of two two two, it's more like two 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 two. I don't explicitly dorsal tongue, but I think it's the tongue is much. I think the idea to get clear tongue in general is you need to get your tongue further forward than a lot of people have. If you have unclear tongue, you're probably tonguing too far back on the roof of your mouth, and you need to get the tip of the tongue closer so that the striking surface is much closer to where the vibration is happening on your lips. And I like to do that by tonguing, keeping the tip of the tongue, even if you don't strike with the tip of the tongue, if you get the tip of the tongue closer, it should help. So I tongue more with my tongue really forward and then tongue back a little bit, rather than ta ta ta. And you can double tongue very easily that way.
cool. Samson, a question from Samson. How to recover your embouchure quickly after not playing for a long time?
Oh, after not playing for a long time. Yeah, okay, so yeah, a lot of us are going to be facing that after quarantine. You didn't practice enough during quarantine, and you come back to rehearsal, and you're out of shape. I don't think there is a shortcut, Samson. I'm sorry. So after you haven't been playing, you're just out of shape, and that first day back usually feels pretty good, and then the second day you're like super tired because like your muscles were fresh that first day, but they were weak. So the second day they're just destroyed. So I think if you've taken a break and you have to come back to playing, give yourself like at least a week to get back into shape and just play every day. Maybe uh, there's two approaches. You can either kind of just like gradually ease into it, like even though you're going to feel really good that first day, just stop after half an hour and then do 45 minutes the next day and slowly build up to that. That might work. Or you can just go really hard that first day and really try to get back into shape while you're feeling great. And then just like recognize that the next day is going to be a recovery day and you're not going to really get any productive practicing done. So you know, as well just
Good.
take it off.
Yeah. Can I know your daily practice schedule?
My daily practice schedule. My daily practice schedule is probably not very useful now, but I'll tell you what it was like when I, because I have kids now and I teach, and so it's like it's really random. But when I was in like college or something, I would, or in high school, I would get up and practice. I would maybe get up and eat breakfast, but then I'd play for an hour before school, just do like warm, and that's when I would do all the warm ups and the technical stuff. Get up at 5:30 or 6 and then have and then I was done with all like the stuff that's like not as fun, right? The scales, the lip slurs, the articulation studies, the etudes. Maybe I would be done with those by the time I get to school. And then after school, maybe I had some sports or something afterwards. And then when I got home, I would do um, all the other stuff, right? So I'd work on my solos, my etudes, and then I would do like jazz as well. So listening to jazz records, improvising, working on that sort of stuff. So for a trumpet player, it's some string players and some pianists and stuff will talk about practicing 6, 7, 8 hours a day in college and whatever. And that's not really possible for bass players, especially trumpet. It's too physically taxing. So for trumpet players, I don't really recommend more than about 3 hours. And actually, for everybody, honestly, your brain starts to get really, really tired after 3 hours of intense practice. If you're practicing really focused and really intently with like a clear intention and deliberate practice, more than practicing more than 3 hours is really probably kind of a waste of time. You're starting to get diminishing returns as you go on because like your brain can only absorb so much information at a time. You really need to practice and then sleep. And if you want to keep working on something, you're really ambitious and like after 3 hours you want to keep going, just listen to some music, transcribe something, listen to a record and try to write it down by ear. That's really helpful. But like doing the mechanical process, you have a limited amount you can absorb. So you have to be disciplined about limiting how much you can practice and getting the most out of that limited time to be as efficient as possible.
Do you play? Speaking in when you're playing in your college, do you play in the DCI? Do you know
Oh,
DCI?
good. Yeah, DCI, Drum Corps International. I never did
Yeah.
that, but my brother-in-law did that as a percussionist, and he loved it. Yeah,
All right. Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Can you share with us your philosophy of teaching?
My philosophy of teaching is centered around I like to meet students where they're at. So if because I want them to first and foremost love playing music, and if they love playing music, then everything else will kind of follow. So for example, I have a student now, she's not that enthusiastic about music. So if I give her etudes and scales, she's just gonna quit. So, but she really loves video games. So we're learning the Mario theme song right now by ear. Like why not? The Super Mario Brothers theme song. And I had and now she's actually practicing it and she's pretty good at it. And so hopefully she's gonna go from there. I have another student who didn't want to do anything, but he really liked hip hop. So we just like started improvising horn lines with hip hop. Um, and then yeah, so whatever I try to meet the students are if they're not interested in the material that I have for them, I try to start with whatever they're interested in. And then we'll usually bridge the gap, right? Then we will work our way over to scales and etudes and tonguing exercises and all those important things and learning solos. But yeah, I don't have a specific dogma. I try to just be flexible and see what the student needs and see what they're interested in.
Cool. And for the final questions, is the trumpet or flugelhorn the most difficult instrument to get back into after a long period of inactivity? If you don't constantly practice, will you lose all your ability?
Okay, so is the trumpet slash flugelhorn the most difficult instrument to get
Yeah,
back
yeah, yeah.
into? Yeah, I would honestly, yes. Okay, so the trumpet is the most athletic instrument out of all of them. Sorry, not it's not a competition. I'm not bragging, but more than any other instrument, it really takes. It's very very physically demanding. There aren't many instruments. There's instruments. Everyone on every instrument's professional players get like things like focal dystonia, but there's no other instrument where people have to quit literally because they've damaged their bodies from playing the trumpet. Not that it's dangerous or that you shouldn't do it, dangerous, but people get hernias or they literally rip the muscles in their lip and they can't play anymore. So yeah, it's very physically demanding, and so it's going to take the most to get back into it, I would think. And what was the second part of that question? Uh, if you don't constantly practice, will you lose all your ability? No, you will lose if you don't practice. If you take a long break, you will lose the muscle strength, but you won't forget how to do it. Your brain will still remember, but the muscles will get weak. So you'll need to get back into shape for like a week or two, depending how long you've taken a break. And you might have forgotten a few things or like not have been quite as effective or proficient as you were. But it's not like you're going to forget your fingerings if you take a 2 month break. You're not going to forget how to articulate. You're not going to forget how to read music. So no, you won't lose all of it. You'll just be rusty.
Okay, it's not one. Can you share some experience if we want to prepare our audition to a university?
Yeah, good question. To prepare for an audition, there's a few really big things you should do. So first of all, I would come up with a practice strategy, right? So if the audition is due on a certain date, usually a lot of schools have like a December 1st deadline for applications. I don't know if that's just for an example, December 1st for deadlines for applications here. Anyways, maybe I'm making that up. Anyway, so pretend it's December 1st. So come up with a plan. Say it's September. Come up with a plan of what your goals are and what you need to practice every day between now and then, right? If you just kind of wing it and like kind of work on those pieces, you might get there, but you'll be more on track and you'll be able to measure your progress much more clearly if you have a specific plan, like a calendar with a strategy for every day. You don't have to have like every minute of your practice worked out, but like daily general kind of goals, and then like a monthly goal too. Like if a month ahead of time, I want to have this piece memorized and these scales learned or whatever. Right. So come up with a strategy, a schedule. Secondly is record yourself. Okay, record your playing part and build this into your strategy. Record yourself playing and listen back to it and analyze it, right? Because you'll hear things much differently when you're listening to a recording like an audience member would rather than when you're playing it. Because when you're playing, you're thinking and listening at the same time. And so you kind of hear things differently. And also, especially with the trumpet, the sound is very, very different on the other side of the bell than behind it from where we hear it. It sounds totally different. Okay, so that's true with like things like trombone as well. Like the sound is like extremely different from the other side of the bell. So you might sound better at some things than you expect. It might sound worse. So that's why it's important to record and listen. It's like, oh, I thought I was really stressed about that articulation, but it actually sounds fine. Or vice versa, like me, like I didn't realize how out of tune I was on that A flat. You'll hear those things when you record and you can't hear when you're playing. And then the third thing I would suggest is play for people, preferably musicians, it's like your teachers, have like a mock audition for other musicians and ask them to give you feedback afterwards. And not like a lesson. Don't have them give you feedback while you're playing. Do it like an audition. Like they sit silently and you play, and maybe they tell you to play something again like they would in an audition, but like make it a mock audition. Dress up, you know, like you're an audition. Make it psychologically as similar to an audition as possible. And ideally, it's the best thing is to play for other musicians, but even just your family members or your friends, just have them sit down and listen to you play and just go through the process. Even if they have no musical experience, just going through that process of doing an audition will help you prepare mentally, psychologically. Like, what are you going to eat before the mock audition? How much are you going to drink water or Gatorade, or like what is going to make you feel tip top shape to play? So those mock auditions help you figure out all those little details that you want to have really figured out right before an audition.
All right, I hope that helps. Yeah, could you tell us the difference between trumpet, cornet, and fanfare trumpet?
Okay. Okay, yeah. So this is a trumpet. I have a cornet, but it's up in my attic right now. I
Mhm.
just finished playing a piece on it. I don't need it anymore. So trumpet and cornet are the same length of tubing, but they are wrapped differently. So this is very long and short. The cornet is a little bit taller and shorter this
Sure.
way. And it's got usually a smaller bell. And it's the most important difference though is that it has a conical bore, like a horn. So that means that the bore, the tubing of it, gradually increases the whole time. Okay, whereas the trumpet is the bore is all the same size until we get to the bell. So that's called a cylindrical bore. So this gives it a much brighter, louder sound. The cornet is warmer and more like nimble sounding. A fanfare trumpet is just a trumpet without so much wrapping. So it is, instead of wrapping all this up, it's just stretched out, right? So instead of like having this bent right here, it's going to be straight. But otherwise, it's the same. Maybe you mean flugelhorn. A flugelhorn, yeah, a flugelhorn is like a cornet on steroids. It's super conical. The bore expands all the way. It's got a jumbo bell, so it's very very warm sounding, and it sounds almost like a French horn. The flugelhorn. Fanfare trumpet's pretty rare. I don't have one of those, but I do have a flugelhorn and a cornet, and use those frequently.
Okay, yeah, I think this is about time to end this program. For those who have any questions to ask Mr. Jacob, please go to send an email to him. What's the email again?
Should I put
jdalager
it?
at
Should I
gmail.com.
change? Should I put it as my name?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so feel free to go send an email to him.
Excellent.
Appreciate Mr. Jacob. Yeah, appreciate Mr. Jacob to offer his help to answer all the questions. Uh, yeah, feel free to ask any questions to further study or you know anything about education. And yeah, thank you once again, Mr. Jacob. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, we appreciate your time here. Um, okay, and since we don't have, do we have any questions? One more in Q&A. Yes, let's get it done now. Yeah, one more.
Okay.
In the United States, why do examination grade systems like Trinity, ABRSM, ANZ, are not very popular?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't really know the answer for sure, but because I haven't talked to a lot of music educators, why we don't do that. I'll give you my opinion. Sometimes I can see both sides of it. I think it's really good to have those goals of the grades and like to have something to work towards. I think that's excellent. But I also think it's a little bit artificial sometimes, right? So like um I don't want my students to be practicing a specific piece or like specific scales just because they want to get that grade pass. I want them to want to learn the music because they like the music, and I want them to learn the scales because they understand the benefits of learning the scales is going to help them play the piece, play the music that they want to play. So going back to the previous example, my students who like are learning Mario and the other ones who's learning, he's like playing on with like Eminem songs. They're not going to ever be interested in that sort of stuff, and I don't want them to feel like they're lesser trumpet players because they're not going to qualify for those types of examinations. They're fun trumpet players. They're just not on that sort of mental trajectory, right? And like same thing with like people interested in jazz or whatever. It's just they're not gonna fit into that mold. So I think it's a little restrictive, and I think sometimes having examinations uh, inhibits creativity and forces and encourages people to work towards the exam rather than working towards becoming the musician that they want to be, right? So but again, I see the benefit too, definitely having goals. And I think for people who are interested in the music that are part of the exams and stuff, I think it's wonderful. And I think having those achievements and it's good for your self-esteem, which is all excellent. but I also see it as a little bit stifling. It can be for certain students. So I think that's why. I think it's just, and I think Americans are too independent and too and ultimately though I think the biggest reason is it just never caught on, and so like people are just stuck in their ways. So because it never started out, no one really started doing it here, it's just never really caught on.
Okay. Any more questions, guys? All right. Yeah. Thank you once again, Mr. Jacob. Yeah.
Thank you for having
Please,
me.
with any questions, just send an email to Mr. Jacob. Thank you for the help. I mean, yeah, Mr. Jacob.
Yeah.
jdalager@gmail.com. Okay,
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Or yeah. Oh,
Okay. For those who miss the previous broadcast program, please go to our YouTube channel and remember to subscribe and like our video, and also follow the JPO Facebook page. And for now, Mr. Jacob will do the closing prayer. Okay,
okay.
Mr. Jacob, go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Dear God, thank you for this opportunity to gather digitally with friends and family and strangers, and share our love of music and our passion for the arts. Please bless and protect all of us and all of our friends and our family and our nations, our countries, as we face this virus. For those that are sick, please bring them to a rapid and full recovery. Please give our governments and our leaders the skills and the knowledge they need to take care of this crisis and handle it quickly and efficiently, and so we can get back together and play music again soon. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, that's about it. Thank you once again. Yeah, we really appreciate your time here, and we hope to see you soon in Sabah, or
Yes.
maybe the JPO will have a tour to United States
Yes.
someday.
Yes. That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Jacob. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.